All right, everybody, welcome back to another week with the Trading Triangle. I'm your host, Trader Nate, and with me, as always, the other 2 points of the triangle. Sean, how you doing this week?
So I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, very good, thank you.
Hey,
I've
there he
had a
is.
pretty successful week. I'm sure lots of people know why, but you can go and figure it out yourself on my X channel. So yeah, so it's good.
Sean had
It's
a
good to
great
be me.
week. Love it, Sean. How about you, Kaye? How was your week, sir?
Hey, it was pretty good. Congratulations, Sean. And we're
Big
pretty
congrats.
sure we all know what happened, but yeah, looking forward to this week.
Big congrats. And yeah, good, nice short week up ahead. Hope everybody's having a nice long weekend and enjoying it here in the States and everywhere else, honestly. And a quick disclaimer before we get into some charts and hear from everybody out in the audience. Of course, this is not financial advice. We are not financial professionals. All this is for entertainment and educational purposes. We have a great time trading, so we enjoy sharing our thoughts and the coming weeks and past weeks, and appreciate everybody tuning in. We get a great audience every week, and we also like to run through some tickers that we've got in mind, but send in your requests. We want to take those and look through some tickers at the end as well, and you guys always bring some good stuff to the forefront. So make sure you do that as we go, and don't be shy. We're watching the chat, and we'll keep up with all those requests. And lastly, make sure you subscribe to the Trading Triangle on YouTube and give this a like, as well as follow the Wolf Financial account where we're live streaming on X and as well as at Trader Nate here. So appreciate you guys out there, everybody tuned in. We have a good time of it. And yep, already getting some good stuff coming in. We got AI and McD. So we can look at those charts a little bit later. And what do you say, guys? Get right into the meat of it?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do it. All right. So as always, taking a look at last week's performance and NVIDIA with the big, that was the big one, right? Huge move, up almost 13%. And we'll see the volatility's, still staying low overall. I think I just pretty much stole the big headline for last week, right? Any other names, you guys, that you want to mention?
I think every other name, I think it was all about NVIDIA, right? First
Yeah.
it was the earnings, then you have a stock split, then the increase in dividends. I think NVIDIA was pretty much the talk. Like every single talk was about NVIDIA.
True story. Yeah, so I think it makes sense. It's nice to see that it had such a big move, and hopefully people made some good money there. And I'm happy because I'm a huge shareholder for my a larger position in my portfolio. I'm not a huge.
So
that was a slip. No, don't take
10
that.
to 1 split is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that would
It
be
would
nice.
be.
But I own it through SMH. That's all I was trying to say. And so all of the chips are doing well, and my huge shareholder. That's hilarious. I am not a baller, you guys. All right, keeping it rolling. We've got
Nate the hedge fund here.
Yeah, I'm just running my own fund.
Yeah.
Standard stuff on the weekends. Yeah, Fear and Greed Index, you guys, back in neutral, actually.
Yep.
And what do you think about that, Kaye?
Well, even though we came back in neutral, the VIX actually did drop. It was 11.99 last week, and it dropped to 11.93. So we didn't see much of volatility yet. I think we'll probably see. Let's see how the numbers come out, and we have a jobless claim coming up next week. So I guess we'll watch those numbers. But as you can see, like most of the conversations that is happening is, we are down. Question is whether we're going to get 2 rate cuts or 1 rate cut. I think, forget about 3 plus or 4
Yeah.
plus. It's like 1 or 2. And the bottom line is as simple. Why would you get a rate cut? You would only get a rate cut if something is broken or inflation has hit its 2% target, which doesn't seem like going to happen anytime soon. So the only outcome is that something needs to break for Fed to say, okay, I think we need to cut the interest rate so that we can, stimulate the economy. So
Yeah, we've got the jobless. Speaking of information and what we're all watching, jobless claims and core PCE yet again this week, tied into inflation, and what you're talking about with the rate cuts. And I don't know if anybody's even talking about rate hikes at all, but down to like 1 cut. When we start off with 6, I think at the start of the year.
I think last year folks who were like they went as much as 6, then it dropped to 4, and then it was between 2 and 4, and then now it's between 1 and 2.
Yeah, I noticed like a month ago we were at fear, And then a week ago, we were back at greed, and now we're in neutral. We're kind of like swinging back and forth here a little bit. I think the charts for SPY and QQQ are pretty interesting to look at. Sean also noticed, like, look, SPY was flat, Qs are up, diamonds down, small caps down with IWM. So kind of a mixed bag this week. I don't know what to make of that, but it looks like tech might try to lead the way again.
I mean, I think if you think about it, it was sorry I took Sean's spot. I think it was all about Nvidia. That basically pulled the market.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, no, definitely. Interesting to see Bitcoin as well doing quite well, at least technically as well, lining up nicely. A few bounces off support, kind of trend lines, etc. So, want to see that kind of continue. I've got a position in Bitcoin as well, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But you two hit the nail on the head with the rest of it. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, we'll take a look at Marathon Digital this week as well. Speaking of Bitcoin, keeping it going, earnings. Actually, some really interesting earnings this week, right? We've got C3AI, which we had a request early on, Salesforce and Okta, big names on Wednesday. What else you got there, Sean? Anything on your list for this week?
Nothing on my list, I must be honest. No, not really looking at anything particular. Obviously, I keep a keen eye on a few ones here and there, but nothing that I'm really focused on, no.
This is more of a K kind of earnings
It
week.
is, yeah. Very much
Yeah.
So you already mentioned the ones. I'm not going to touch those. I am also looking at MongoDB. We have Marvell, UiPath. So we are. I have two of these I'm covering in my section. So UiPath and Okta. You have NetApp. That's another one I'm looking at. So it's most. This is like I could say this is like a software as a service earnings week. It's
Yeah.
and then of course you have the big one, Costco.
I was gonna say, then you just slide Costco in there, right?
Yeah.
Right at the end of the week. So yeah, short week, but plenty of earnings kind of packed into it, honestly. So I think that'll keep plenty, give us plenty to talk about. Zscaler, another one on that list. You got Kava early on. I know people are interested in Kava.
Oh, I missed Zscaler. Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah,
And we have Elastic as well. Yeah, it's basically software as a service week here.
Good stuff. Looking forward to it. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on some of these, Kay, for sure. And I think we'll jump into SPY, get right to the charts. This is something I pointed out in the Traders Education newsletter, and something that it's caught my attention, I guess, is we had this big bearish engulfing candle, earlier on, and we sold off. Right, this was in March, and we sold off for a couple of weeks following that, and we see the same kind of thing right now with this big bearish engulfing candle, which is meaning we open above and close below the prior day's high and low. And that's interesting to me, right? Like, I think that, that's exactly what we saw before. Then we saw some inside days where we get the open and close still inside the big broad sell-off candle. Both are randomly on a Thursday. I don't know if that means anything. And then Friday have a little bit of a bounce. So, I could see we're back below this fib level here, 529, 530-ish. And I can see us maybe go back down and retest this 50-day moving average. That's where my head's at. But no, RSI is still pretty strong. So, Sean, what do you think here? Is this something worth noting? Are you more bullish or bearish at this point?
I think I'm a bit more bullish, but just because of the monthly candles, there's a massive bullish engulfing. If it was at these levels, or even just dip slightly as well, which is interesting to see. But I like the way you've drawn this and you've articulated the fact it might perhaps come down, but I think that'd be natural as well. Maybe come back down and retest the previous highs where you've got the first yellow arrow on the left there.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what level that is, but maybe 525-ish. Come down and test that, and then probably the 20-minute average will kind of come in with that as well. So you've got a little bit of confluence behind there. But generally, I think the market's moving in the right direction. Not the right direction, but it's moving in a direction. It's trending upwards, of course. But yeah, I mean, just being mindful of the kind of the monthly charts as well and the weekly charts. Just take a step back and kind of move out. I always say this. It's probably a bit of a broken record moment, but you know me. I take a step back. But yeah, we'll see. I think keep marching higher, but that's just me.
It's good advice, and I'm agreeing with you when you say it wouldn't be bad if this pulls back to 520, even 515-ish, because we have that 50-day moving average right there. Could provide some nice support, and then continue higher, right? Like you said, that would continue the uptrend. We'd be forming a higher low, which is great if you're a bull and looking for more upside, for the second half of the year. Kaye, what are your thoughts on the current market conditions?
So I think the firstly on 531, which is the end of next week, the S&P 500 has a put to call ratio of 3, which is very, very bearish, right? As opposed to our usual 2.5 or 2.75. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't remember the last time we heard a 3. Feels like that's
yeah, it's pretty bearish. And on top of it, I do think if it's very difficult if you think about it, like we were just at 500 2 weeks ago, and we ran up pretty fast to what 529 almost.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we can at least get a pullback around the 520 area. Um, and unless the PCE numbers and jobless claims are really off the mark, we may see come back as well. And depending on how the earnings are for this week, because a couple big names are there as well. You have Dell, you have Costco, so they might be able to kind of give a sentiment on how consumers are feeling, because you saw what Target is doing, you saw Walmart's big drop during the earnings and the guidance. So those will start to play, because there is no other catalyst coming in, so these are the ones that will act as a catalyst for the market to at least do on a day-to-day trend until we see some kind of a major catalyst.
Yeah, I'm wondering if those numbers Wednesday or Friday this week, core PCE.
I think PCE is 5:30, right? So I think Thursday. Let me double check.
So
Okay.
you two are going down, I'm going up.
Yeah,
I
that
would
kind
say.
of sounds like it. I'm curious though. Like we could just trade sideways ahead, heading into these numbers this
Yeah.
week.
It's Thursday.
It is Thursday, right? So that's just a couple trading days because we have Monday off, and then
Yeah, true.
we could see that move either down or up based off of those numbers. So
Actually,
definitely worth
you
watching.
bring a good point. This week might be as well as a pretty sideways movement, because the volume will definitely be lower
Volume.
compared to a
Yeah.
regular week. People will be coming off from, you might not see as much trading.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see what happens there. It could be kind of a flat week. Qs look similar, but a little different, right? Had the big sell-off candle on Thursday after making new highs, but then also Friday powered back up, recovered more than half of that red candle from Thursday, and trying to hold above 455.50, which is a key fib level here that I've got noted from this 3-point fib that I drew from the prior lows to the high to the recent lows. And this is just a nice climb, right? Like really actually looking pretty healthy and well above the 5-day moving average. So the Qs make me a little bit more bullish, and that kind of makes sense given what we were saying a little bit earlier. Sean, you're nodding your head, right? We got
Yeah.
NVIDIA leading and tech leading. So feeling good about the Qs here as well, I'm imagining.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, it might be worth talking a bit about your kind of, I can't remember what you call it, but when the 3 bars cross below the 5 moving average technique,
Oh
I
yeah.
can't remember what you call it, but maybe it might be worth talking about that if the trend changes, perhaps. But yeah, I think generally with this, I think, again, a pullback would be nice, maybe towards that 446 level if we are going to get a kind of flat, kind of down, maybe people taking the money out of the market type of weeks. If not, I see it just continuing to kind of plug upwards. You get this a lot in bull markets, don't you? Just kind of slow grind. You get a little bit of red, and everyone kind of, oh, okay, I'll keep buying. But until you get that really big red, really big catalyst, and then that's that. But yeah, maybe talk a little bit about that strategy, which I've completely forgotten the name of.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if I gave it a clever name because it's something I noted in this big run up here, the start of the year and going back to the October lows. Really, this 5-day moving average line, the candles never drop below it for more than 2 days at a time, and the third candle would pop back above. Towards the end of the year, it actually had a couple spots, but you can see here, right? We were staying above the 5-day. We sold off. This was being a buy the dip opportunity. It's hard to say, at this point, but if you're following the trend for the whole year, we never had more than 2 candles close below this 5-day, and then it would get back above and continue the trend higher. And here it kind of stutters, right? You actually get 3 below, but then again, pop right back above and kept moving higher. And now we're getting a bit of a repeat of that, right? Like these candles are holding the 5-day. We're not even getting any, we got 1 close below and then right back above. So until you see 3 candles close convincingly below this 5-day moving average, there's no need to switch your bullish sentiment to bearish, right? Doesn't make sense. Kaye, you feeling pretty bullish? Is the put to call a little nicer for the Qs here at the end of the month?
I don't see any. I don't see the data that I use the website for. For
Oh,
Q, they don't have any data for the May. Um, Interestingly, if you notice, right, the fear and greed is neutral. So I would stay neutral in this one because I'm not very. I don't see any catalyst that could be bullish, right? All the catalysts, all the earnings are over from a tech
video.
standpoint.
Yeah, video is it,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. So there isn't much that's like what is coming in, right? Really, that can bring a good news. You don't have any major events until like next 2 3 weeks out for Apple, and then you'll probably have. Then again, earnings will start in May and June, mid June to end June.
Right.
So I wouldn't
So
be surprised if we get a sideways here.
yeah, and we're heading into the summer. Volume will drop off a little bit and all that. So I could get some chop, maybe some opportunities to sell covered calls and cash secured puts along the way for a few months and a little extra cash. That
Yeah,
could be nice.
exactly. I mean, honestly, there are two big events that I'm really focusing on. One is the Apple's WWDC to see what's going on, and then it'll be Tesla's August 8th robotaxi.
Yeah, that's another big one. Good call. All right, good stuff, guys. Let's get into some charts here about individual tickers. And before we do, a reminder, everybody, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Trading Triangle on YouTube. We appreciate all the support, and we get the word out. And smash the like button as well. And also, if you haven't already checked us out on the live stream on X, we're over on Wolf Financial. And I think with that, Sean, I'm going to kick it over to you. What do we got first this week?
Awesome. Yeah, we've got ENPH up first, and it's a solar stock, as you probably all know. And we've had a little bit of a push in solar recently, especially First Solar, which I almost brought up as a chart itself. But it's really, really taken off, and obviously all the kind of solar stocks have kind of followed suit. So what I kind of wanted to pull here is the ENPH chart. Obviously, there could be a possible opportunity. So obviously, First Solar is not going to go up forever, but if it does push up a little bit further and brings up ENPH with it, I'd like to get it above this kind of wedge that you can see, and then pretty much follow the zigzag that I've drawn there. So, thereabouts. I'll keep it on there. So if I might bring it up in a few weeks' time and obviously, see if it went well, obviously if it went disastrously. But we can see basically getting above that 125 level thereabouts, and coming up above that, coming back down and retesting it. It's kind of my strategy. A little bit of a trend line breakout trade for this one, and then ultimately trying to get back above that 138. Now you could enter here, but I think it's a little bit risky to enter here. I'd probably, enter on after the kind of pullback, so coming back down to that 125, and that's still a good kind of 9-10%, I think, off the top of my head. And then obviously, if it was to kind of play out towards that 167 level, which is the ultimate goal, right at the top there in that gold line, that is obviously, I don't know how much that is, maybe 30%, maybe 40%. I probably should have put that on the screen. But yeah, it's almost like a trade idea, basically. And just to back that up, we've got pretty good RSI as well down the bottom there. And the most recent price action bouncing off of all of the converging moving averages is really good to see. It shows strength in the stock, and obviously ultimately that push up is pretty good. We do have a little bit of resistance, obviously, with that trend line and with that, well, both trend lines, I suppose, to kind of where the wedge comes together. So there's plenty to look out for as a resistance point of view, but if we can get above that, the momentum is definitely with this particular stock. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, personally, I like the way this is shaping up. You kind of got a shakeout there with that long lower wick that got bought up quickly, and I think that's at the end of April, start of May there, and now it's recovered back up above the trend line. If it continues, like as you're showing there, why not power all the way back up and fill that gap that gets you up to that 167 level that you mentioned? That looks like a nice target, and this is good momentum, right? Building higher. It's going to be key, though, like you mentioned, to get above 138. And there's probably still some overhead supply there that'll make things move a little bit sideways before. That's just my guess, is that powering straight through might not be what you see. You might get a little bit of resistance first. But I mean, I like the setup as well, Sean. This is a nice chart.
And just to add to what you guys are saying, so I agree with the assessment. And for the next 4 weeks, your put to call is 0.94, 0.9, 0.93 point. So pretty flat, but also getting a little bit bullish. So you
Nice.
could see that, run up.
No, it's definitely treating it more as a swing trade for this one for me. And I've got a position in INRG, which is pretty much solar, wind, that kind of stuff. Clean energy, should we say. So I've kind of got a little bit of position, but I don't have a direct position in the actual asset. So I do obviously pay attention to ENPH, First Solar, and the like. So I'm looking forward to this one to see how it plays out, if it plays out.
Good stuff, Sean. All right, keep it rolling. And by the way, guys, get your ticker requests kicked in here. We want to see them coming in. We'll add them to the end of the show here. But what's next, Sean?
Yeah, next up is RIVN. So this it's come up on the channel a few times. You know I like RIVN, and I think you both like RIVN too, in terms of the actual product at least. So we can see a very, very simple pattern here. If you don't know what this is, you probably, I don't want to sound patronizing, but yeah, it's a head and shoulders pattern, inverse head and shoulders. You can basically see on the left side there, and the first low, probably around mid-February, that's your left shoulder. So imagine this one here. And then obviously you've got the lowest point, which is your head. I'm actually going to do this. And then the other low, which we've just kind of created, possibly on the right-hand side there, the last few days, is your right shoulder. And basically what that means, if you can get above that neckline, which is obviously around about that $12 mark, $12.50 mark, then we will see potentially a move back up to that kind of 15.20. Very simple pattern. If you don't know about it, obviously research it. It's very well known within trading, at least in my opinion. But just to kind of go back on that, we've got a bit of confluence within this pattern as well. So we've got the 20 moving average and the 50 moving average kind of playing through where we are now. They've kind of converged. And alongside that, we have a support level of 10.10, about 10.10, which is that line kind of drawn through, a bit of a faded line drawn through there. So you've got a bit of confluence there. I don't know, Nate, if you kind of agree with that kind of complementary view, shall we say. But yeah, in terms of the actual company, they're not doing wonderfully, but they are turning a corner. And as time moves on, as the quarters move through, it gets a bit brighter, at least in my opinion, for RIVN. I'm excited for their future. And I do actually have I'll keep talking. I'll stop in a minute.
No, keep it going. Keep it going.
I do have a Twitter thread coming out tomorrow, probably about just before close, around RIVN, around the kind of customer base as well. So it'd be good to kind of get your eyes on that, not yours, but whoever's eyes watching this now. So yeah, a little bit of research with RIVN.
I like it, man. I keep looking at these RIVNs to buy. Like I really want to get one. I think I've decided I want to get one, and now I'm trying to talk myself out of it continuously.
Like buying the car or buying the stock?
The car. And then I think if I'm going to buy the car, I should be buying the stock too, right? So because I don't want to buy a car that I don't believe in the company. So
True.
And I like trading RIVN. And what I was going to say, Sean, here about this chart is like if you want to get in early, this is a nice spot to do it, right? Like if you're expecting RIVN to start making a climb back higher, this is that first leg up where it's showed some support. It's allowed the moving average to come back up, like you mentioned. And so we've got like a clear support level here just above $10. So if it can bounce from here and start making higher highs, this is a great entry point. It's still risky, I think, obviously, right? But like if you start nibbling here, I think that's a decent play or way to play it. But yeah, I do like RIVN.
I've got the kind of red zone as well just below them. You can't really see it too clearly, but there's a bit of a red zone kind of going through the bottom of the screen there. And that's kind of my accumulation zone, which is probably the best way to put it. And that's obviously it's kind of playing around on top of that. So interesting to see how that's played out as well. I'll be adding for the years to come. So
very nice. Well, hopefully I can add to their customer list and help the stock out.
I don't know if that's my longest run talking, because obviously I used to talk a lot with Neo, but that might have overtaken it. So I do apologize. Anyway, yeah. So obviously I mentioned I've got a Twitter thread coming out tomorrow around RIVN, so you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter /X, YouTube. I have a couple of live streams going on this week, so go ahead and check me out over there. And Substack, I'm actually going to do something related to Substack at some point this week. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe to that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. At Sean Trades, if you haven't caught that already. Great stuff from Sean on all the platforms. Honestly, really enjoy all of it. So make sure you check out Sean if you haven't already. And I will continue with the trading triangle here. I brought in Marathon Digital again. You guys know I like this one. And I've been trading it for a while. I actually took a break. I haven't traded it in a few months. But now it's setting up really nicely. Look at this March, right? You're getting this higher highs, higher lows. This big yellow line is anchored volume weighted average price, anchor VWAP from the lows back in, I think that was October-ish of last year. It goes off the screen to the left there. But yeah, we're back above that. And you can see, it had provided, that yellow line had provided some support. Then when we broke below, it was resistance. And now we're back above. So I'm hoping we get it as a launching pad along with the moving averages, which are all kind of clustering and forming here, plus this uptrend. So all right around this 1850 level, which has provided both support and resistance in the past. Has a whole lot of stuff to work with right here at 1850 as support. And so if it gets a nice bounce here, Marathon moves. These names move along with Bitcoin in big ways. So 2465 would be the next level I'm targeting. And then above that, 31, roughly 3130. So, big moves if we get them. It's been kind of gradually grinding higher and allowing, RSI to also get above the midway point. So Bitcoin itself is performing well. And it looks like Marathon's finally starting to show some life again. What do you think about this one, Kaye? I'm going to start with you because you've messed around trading Marathon a bit. Do you like this chart?
Well, I love it, but you would not believe I am in this trade since February.
That's a long trade.
It's a long trade, and so far I have collected close to $900 in premium.
And so how are you doing that, if you don't mind breaking that down a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I had a $21 put, which I opened back on 15th February. And I rolled it almost 4 times. This is my fourth rolling. And with every roll, I'm getting close to $150 to $200 per contract. So right now I'm close to 936. And this will expire, the current contract will expire on 6/7 and at 21. So I'm happy to collect it. If it goes above that, probably will expire. But if it stays below 21, I'll continue to roll and keep collecting those cash.
I mean, you've collected a ton of premium already.
963, yes, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. This is another strategy to utilize, you guys. Like, you don't have to always own the shares or be in long calls or whatever. In fact, you can do exactly what Kaye's doing, and you do it really well, man. I got to say, I've been impressed.
Yeah, because my collateral is what, $4,200 collateral, and I have already collected $900.
Right, like basically 25% already collected, right?
Exactly.
If you get assigned at the strike. So
Exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really great trade. Think about that. We're 5, or you said you started in February, so we're really
15
3
Feb.
months in. 25% gain, 3 months. Take it absolutely every time. Sean, what do you think about this chart from a technical perspective? You like the way it's setting up?
I do, very much so. That important word confluence is coming up for me again.
Yeah.
So like you say, you can basically see, I'm not going to name all the lines, but you can see all the lines basically coming underneath it. That's
Right.
what technical analysis is, isn't it? It's just lines. But we just another note on the side of that. Bitcoin obviously is moving up quite nicely. It's kind of flat recently, but if you get a move in Bitcoin, you'll get a move in Mara. And if you're a bit scared around leverage, around these kind of things, I mean, I trade shares and leverage shares myself. But for me personally, I'll probably just trade the 1x shares, so just kind of like for like standard shares for Mara. So yeah, just be careful around kind of trading this stock. Obviously, it does move. Nate said it, and
so. If we go from 1850 to 2465, that's roughly a 30% move right there, right? Like, that's huge. You don't need to mess around leverage too much if you don't want to. So we'll see what happens. I was happy to bring this one up again. I hadn't really talked about Marathon for a while, so hopefully this plays out and people can make some money. See what happens. Next up, NVT. So this is another one I wrote about recently in the Traders Education newsletter. Again, if you haven't subscribed, go over Substack, check it out, Traders Education. And I write weekly and also provide some trade ideas. And NVT is one that popped off a little while ago. These circles here are the buy points I highlighted for the subscribers to the newsletter. And right around 79 was the first buy point. I mentioned that if you wanted to wait for a bit more information and to provide a little bit more confidence and more upside, the next would be if we broke above 81.62 and then retested that, which is exactly what we got last week. and middle of the week. And if you entered there, big move up through Friday, making new highs, closing at 85.43. Just a great move, right? Especially if you got in at 79, you got a nice $5 move in short order, and trading the options is even better. So RSI is really in good shape here. It is lower though, and this is something, Sean, that you've got me looking for, right? So a little bit of divergence here. So maybe this is a bit overdone and we get more of another sell-off again, or a little bit of a pullback. If that's the case, and if 84 holds up, this is my next entry point really for more upside. It might sell off a bit more. It might come back to this 81.62 level, in which case I would be interested again there too. So we'll see, but I really like the way this chart is looking, right? We got the pullback with the markets, but now it's really powering higher. I brought this up before. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I really like it. I guess I basically completely missed it. But congratulations for your trade. Really, really well done. Really well found, to be honest with you. But yeah, with this chart, I was going to say the RSI divergence was possibly there. For me, RSI divergence is a bit more of a longer term look of things as well. So basically a complete trend shift. So you'd be looking at that trend line that you can kind of imagine going through the screen there, being broken, and obviously excessive selling after that. But obviously, if the company is doing quite well and you can see that the price action kind of following that, then of course there's not real reason for that to kind of take place. It's just a technical indicator, and not all technical indicators pull off. So just be aware of that when you're trading. Not everything's going to happen perfectly. But yeah, I mean, I like what you said. Coming up to the kind of 80, let's say 88 ish. No, not 88. I mean, that would be huge. 86 ish. Come back down and retesting that recent. The highest dotted line. I can't get my words out today. Maybe it's too hot in England.
Yeah, around 84.
But yeah, no, it's a good chart. It's a lovely chart, but just be careful for indicators.
Exactly. I agree. You got to be careful here once things get moving. If we get a pullback, I'm looking for more opportunity, but it has been on a nice run. By the way, I didn't know about NVT. One of our audience brought it to our attention. I don't know if you guys remember that. Or maybe it was through the Twitter handle, but either way, NVT was brought to my attention. I didn't find this one on my own. So again, another reason we appreciate you guys out in the audience tuning in and throwing out your requests. So keep those coming in, because NVT's been one I've been able to win with, and I've literally was turned on to it earlier this year. So good stuff.
I didn't even know about this one. Thanks for bringing it up. I'll add it to my watch list.
Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks, guys. I'm going to keep it rolling here, but before I do, hand it over to Kaye. Of course, you can find me at Trader Nate here on X. I also write for Wolf Financial, feature writer for his Sunday posts on his Beehive newsletter. And then over on Substack is where I do most of my work. A Trader's Education's my newsletter. I try to provide a bunch of education for new traders as well as those who have a little bit more experience, and keep it interesting with my thoughts on the markets and on trade opportunities, all the good stuff, including options I'm looking at and what have you. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on any of these mediums. And after that, I will hand it over to Kaye. Awesome. What we got, Kaye? OKTA?
OKTA. So I know that there are a couple of questions that we have that are not specific to stock. So we'll cover that right after I finish. I'm going to keep it pretty smooth here. So we do have these stocks, OKTA and PATH, both reporting earnings. Now, this one, OKTA in particularly, I would not trade the earnings, and I'll tell you why. So generally the implied move is about 10 to 14%. It could go up and down, but that's the average implied move. So you could see a decent amount of move, especially for OKTA. The put to call ratio is much bearish. It's 1.48. So keep that into consideration. If you notice that the revenue for the last quarter and this quarter is pretty even, there is really no growth. In fact, there's a little bit of a decline, and the decline is because the company is changing its sales strategy. So if you're familiar with typical SaaS companies on how did they do, the general strategy is land and expand, which means that you get a customer, which is called land. And then once you have that customer, you kind of start to upsell, cross-sell your different products and services so you can expand your contract value. That's called land and expand. So they're changing their sales strategy a little bit. I think they call it hunter farmer. It's like all these fancy words that they, salespeople, they bring it up. But bottom line is they're changing their strategy. The next thing I want to point out is that they have never missed their earnings estimates. So it's always been green for both EPS and that. So that brings to the point is that whatever they are predicting, that they will pretty much hit that level. Now, if you notice, I have drawn these arrows, they align right next to each earning. And you will see that inevitably, whether it's a gap up or a gap down, you will see that with the earnings.
Yeah. So you said that they meet or beat earnings every time, but
Exactly. They have beaten the earnings every single time.
they still
So
can gap down. So that's, yeah. There you go.
correct. So why that happens is because of the guidance that you will see a gap up or a gap down.
Yeah.
You won't see because of the earnings per se. And you can see, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 examples that I could fit in a chart. If you actually go back, you will see more examples on the chart. You will see a gap up and gap down. So I wouldn't trade earnings in this particular scenario. um, I think for SaaS companies, the environment is a little bit more difficult because back in the day, companies would be willing to buy and purchase softwares. Now companies are a little bit, holding off on the cash. The sales cycle is longer. You can look at Salesforce, you can look at Snowflake. All these companies, they're reporting the similar sentiment. So I would be careful around, wait for the pullback, or it's fine if you have a gap up. You will see a gap fill. As you can see in the previous one, we had this massive gap up, and look, the stock came down and filled that gap. So you will have that gap fill regardless of the fact. So I think I'll wait for the earnings to finish, see what the gap up or gap down is, and then I will be posting the trade idea after the earnings.
Yeah, I look forward to that trade idea for sure. Can I just say, Kaye, your charts have come such a long way. This looks wonderful. It's perfectly annotated. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. Thank you.
Awesome.
But I have nothing else to really add. I'll be just, again, post earnings, definitely for me. Gap up, gap down, and kind of play it off of that one. 86 level will be one for me, definitely for gap down. But apart from that, that's also all I can really see on the chart.
Okay, I am going to second that, and then I'm just going to add in here what I'm seeing where you've got this, rectangle drawn in.
Yeah.
If you just extend that left, that shows the resistance,
yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Prior resistance here, and now we're above it and retested it. So it would be nice to see this power up on stronger guidance. I'm really curious what the market's how they react to the change in strategy there that you mentioned. So yeah, this is an interesting one. I'll be watching.
I'll keep you guys posted on the
Keep us posted.
Yeah.
No misses since the IPO. I don't remember ever hearing that before. That's interesting. All right, what's next, Kaye?
Next one is PATH, and you can see this is a typical Fibonacci retracement that I generally track. The stock is trading below the 200-day moving average. That little yellow box that was right back in the earnings, and I said that I will start to add once we hit that. But since then, we have had a pretty downward movement. And again, all software companies are pretty much in the same bucket, and that's the reason I have not pulled any trigger. Generally, if I have a position, I tend to add to my position once it's below the 200 moving average for long-term portfolio. But in this scenario, I'm still waiting. I'm not very confident on if the SaaS companies have really figured it out yet in this market. So I'm not betting on the potentials. I'm betting on the market leaders at this point in time. And same thing over here. They have never missed their earnings estimate. They have always beaten their earning estimate since IPO. Their revenue is actually going down. So Q1 they brought in 400 million, 405. They're going to bring 333. So we could see further selling, and really depends on the guidance. If the guidance is also poor, you could see the stock actually going back to the lowers of 17 and maybe even breaking that down. Now that's when I will start to get interested and maybe start the position. But this has a big implied move of 15%, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, that is big. Yeah, it's interesting. I liked your note about adding for the long term. Anytime your positions drop below that 200-day, as long as you still have conviction in that.
Correct.
Yeah. That's a really great strategy. Buying the ultimate lows effectively, or hopefully. But yeah, generally it's a good strategy, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you consistently do that, you will notice, and I specifically do for the big ones like SPY or QQQ or Tesla or Amazon, Apple, those kind of stocks. I do it, but if you do it for the stocks that you really hold, you'll see a big change. This 200 moving average is a very long term trend. It's not a short term trend.
Right. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add to this chart is just a bit of a wedge actually kind of happening. So if you've drew a line from the lowest low on the screen, which is basically the turn of the year, 2023. No, sorry, turn of last year, so 2023, all the way up kind of basically where we are now. Obviously, stock would have to trade slightly lower to hit that trend line. And we've also got a from the highest high on the screen, so the 2787. Yeah, basically what Nate's drawing there. It's kind of a bit of a pinch zone. So we're kind of approaching that kind of turning point potentially for the stock, an upwards trajectory or even obviously towards downwards, of course. So yeah, I'll be looking at that one. I've just drawn it on my chart actually while you two are talking, added to my watch list. So thank you, Kaye. I'll look out for this one.
Awesome.
Bringing it again. More chartsmanship by Kaye. Thanks, Kaye. Who find you?
Well, you can of course find me on X now since it's officially named as X. And then on YouTube, I will be posting the post earnings update for OKTA. So feel free to catch that, and I have a couple more trade ideas coming in for AMD and Nvidia, and as well as Apple and Amazon. So keep an eye for that. And then I do write on Substack as well once a month.
Nice. Are you going to live stream the Okta earnings? Is that what you said? Or are
Uh,
you
I,
going to cover it post earnings?
I don't know. I'll have to see because I have to if I have to go to work, I probably won't be able to do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I know that you and Sean sometimes live stream. If you guys are gonna, check out any earnings, make sure you check it out on either of these guys' channels because, yeah, support what they're doing. They're doing great stuff. And then, so you were talking more about if you're gonna follow up post earnings.
Post earnings, I'll post my thoughts on the stock as well as
I'll be
that.
looking. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that, Kaye. Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, let's see. I think that's it for what we're bringing this week, but we do have time to get to tickers requested from the audience, of course. And I got a couple noted, but if you're out there tuned in and you have some requests you want to send in, bring them on in. We'll jump over to the charts now and start getting into it. I know we had AI and McDonald's both on the list, so.
So did you realize that we've been doing this on YouTube for a year next week?
A year
already? Yeah.
1 year anniversary.
Hey, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. I
Thanks
did
to
not
all of you that
realize
watched
it that
and
fast,
supported it.
Sean. That was really fast.
Very much so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Seriously, though, a year already. We've been, we ramped up slowly. Now we got an audience here that's, well over 1,000 every week. We got to 3,000 a few weeks ago. We're taking some time off, so now we're working our way back up there. So definitely appreciate all you guys out there making it possible. And again, if you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. The Trading Triangle on YouTube. That's where it's at. That's where you can find all of us and connect out from there to Sean's channel and Kaye's channel and my Substack. But yeah, let's look at some charts here. These are the cues, of course, that I got pulled up, and bring in those requests. And if we don't have too many, we'll wrap up a little early this week. And I do think you guys, we got a holiday weekend, right? So a lot of people are enjoying it. So if you guys are catching this on the record, do post this on my Substack later on, or if you're watching it on the channel, don't be shy. Reach out, drop a note, and we'll be happy to follow up with you guys. So C3 AI, you can tell I've been looking at it a little bit. I have some fib levels posted. It did sell off a bit and looks like it tried to find some footing right at around $20. It has bounced up and just last week started selling off again. So I am curious because it does look like we broke a bit of a trend here for AI.
Isn't that a bearish engulfing candle?
Where do you see it exactly?
The last two ones. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the weekly.
Oh, you're looking at the weekly. Yes.
I was looking at the weekly. Yeah, that's why it was a bearish engulfing.
Well, let's look at that. That's interesting.
The bearish engulfing candle.
Yeah. So it does. It opens just above and closes below. So not a great sign. Also, you could look at this as a tweezer top, right? So we moved up into the 20-week moving average. This is the 150-week also, right? And if you reach into, and this is the fib level also 2720. So if you're hitting resistance and see this big reversal where you sell off the next day, some people call this a tweezer top, and we can see continued selling, kind of like this here. This is a little bit of an example. But But anyways, yeah, right into this resistance on the weekly. That's a good call, Kay. Zooming out, like Sean mentioned earlier. Sean, have you traded AI at all? C3.ai?
I think I did a couple of years ago, but not since then, really. I think it's one of those names I kind of stay away from. But you can kind of see a bit of a level on the screen around probably 23. I don't know if you can stick a line in that kind of 23 area.
Yeah.
It looks like a bit of a level of support. We're kind of approaching it now, so it's kind of last chance saloon, really, for around about there-ish.
Yeah.
A last chance saloon, perhaps for C3AI, but you mentioned it before on the weekly as well, which Kaye mentioned as well. There's lots of resistance in the way, isn't there? So it'll be tough to get through it. But obviously, earnings I think are this week. We mentioned earlier, so that'd be an interesting catalyst for it.
Yeah, that could be what keeps it on this trend line right here. But I like exactly what you mentioned. I didn't see that. But yeah, 23.45, call it, and that gives you nice support. And if it breaks below, probably going to retest around 20 again. So yeah, that's my thoughts there. It's a really great level you pointed out there, Sean. Anything else to add, guys? RSI looks like it's hinging back up, trying to stay, above 40, 50 area. That's positive.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many positives on this screen, but they are there. And sometimes when you look at a chart, there's just no positives. And then you kind of move on from it, or obviously you play it to the short side. But yeah, there is definitely positives on this chart. So just being aware of them and kind of trading around them accordingly, isn't it, really? Just kind of sitting on your hands, waiting for the move to come to you, not chase it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, look at all this volume here that's up at these levels, well up in the 40. And then again here, decent volume spike after earnings that's all sold off. So once you hit these levels again, you're going to have people who just want to get out, break even points that we're not happy to ride this, for example, right? Yeah. This is pretty painful. So, keep that in mind, overhead supply for AI.
Unless you shorted it.
Unless you're shorting it. Exactly. McDonald's has been pretty interesting. I've had some interesting conversations around just fast food in general. Here's the Tesla symbol right here. Interesting.
It's also an M, isn't it? An M.
That's
one massive
M. Well, the golden arches right here, you guys. That's exactly
head and shoulders.
But if you think about, like, for McDonald's, if you have it, most people have McDonald's in their dividend portfolio or long-term portfolio.
Mm-hmm. True statement.
Right? You are not trading this. It's not a very common trading name. So in my case, it's below its 200-day, below its 50-day, below its 20-day moving average. So below, and of course with the whole fast food, these are the if you want to build your portfolio or build your position over here, you would want to start to nibble away the McDonald's stocks here. I don't know what's happening today.
This is a great weekly chart. And again, we're going to give Sean credit because he's getting us to look broader terms here. So if you go back to this low point in 2018, you can see every time it's reached back, except for, of course, the COVID crash in March 2020. Yeah. Every other time we get back to this trend line level, and what happens, right? It's bought back up. It's bought back up, and here we are again. So I think that's interesting. It's a good point, right? It's holding the 150 or 200-day moving average effectively, and every time it dips below it, it gets bought back up. So back to your point about the long term, could be an interesting spot to add shares for McDonald's for sure.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to say, to me, this looks like a good buying opportunity, especially if you're a long-term investor. Yeah. I probably wouldn't trade this kind of stock. I don't really trade dividend stocks at all, really. I've tried that. It didn't work. But,
Gotcha.
For long term, it looks good, actually.
Yeah, I like this for a long-term ad here, this kind of a point. This is regardless of what the stock was, if I saw this chart, I'd say, yeah, you could add here. This is a good spot, And if you think about McDonald's, they're going to figure some things out, right?
I mean, let's be honest I don't know about McDonald's, but people are not going to just turn away. The moment things will get better, they'll just go back and start eating junk food, right? So you can trust human beings more than you can trust the companies.
They're not going anywhere, are they?
Hey, did you guys have the put to call ratio for AI? Kaye, do you happen to have that?
Yeah, I can pull it up 1 second.
So yeah, McDonald's here. I think that again, technology. By the way, they're bringing in bots and all this stuff, right? And that's going to add to their or help them expand margins. You would think over the long term. So we'll see what happens there.
It's 0.51 for 531, and your implied volatility is 139%.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that for a company like AI? Is that something that you would pay a ton of attention to, or it's just one of these, like we've talked about before, it's such a retail favorite that using the put to call ratio isn't as helpful, if I say that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would not be trading that stock because the implied move is close to 17%.
Just
And yeah, post
too
earning.
much.
Yeah, and I mean, you if you want to do spreads, that might be a better option where you are hedging your gap gains, but as well as losses. But I don't want to get into a CSP unless I own a stock on that one.
Yeah, gotcha. So really the way I look at it, and I think is exactly what you're saying, Kay, is if you're going to trade options for something like the AI, C3 AI, you're really risking all or nothing kind of a thing. Like you're going in knowing that if it goes the wrong way, it's going to move in such a dramatic direction that you're not going to you're going to lose 90% like in a blink. So you have to be willing to accept that risk, knowing that if you get the right direction, it could pay off nicely. But keep in mind, these options have the, implied moves built into the price. So it has to beat that expected move to really pay off. So the risk reward is what we're getting at here is just not really there, right? So just keep that in mind. There's other opportunities where the juice isn't so expensive and the moves don't have to be so dramatic just to get a decent payoff, right? And then the flip side of that is almost McDonald's, where it's like it doesn't move enough, and really that's better long term and collect dividends, that kind of a thing. At least in my opinion, my 2 cents. All right, well, let's keep it going. We got UAL, which is one that also has been on my radar. I mean, we got United Airlines here. It's summertime, so you got summer travel. This is a weekly, which looks like we're hitting right up near resistance at this 53, 54, 55. We'll call it 55. It's a nice even number. 55 level. But the daily, is showing, looks like I was doing some analysis on this before. And it kind of did what I thought it was going to do, which is, this arrow here, I thought it would consolidate a bit. And get rid of this guy. But I thought we might get back above this trend line, right? Break above, consolidate a bit, and then continue higher. And look, that's kind of what we've done here. It's pulling back. We've got this 50-day moving average coming up. So, maybe we see a retest around 50 for United Airlines. And if we did, I would be interested in potentially, adding to a long position there. But it's nice it made a higher high before selling off recently. So it would be even nicer if it could hold a higher low, which would be holding above 49.73.
I think if you extend the trend line you've got there as well, that could be a nice little support. It's not always the case with those trend lines, but sometimes psychologically, if people have them on their charts already, then they do kind of play along with it. So it's got a little bit of confluence with that 50 moving average as well.
Yeah, good call. Good call. What do you think, Kay? You like United Airlines?
Yeah, I like it. And honestly, if you're looking at this level of 51.73, you have a decent volume shelf there. But then if you draw a Fibonacci retracement, Fibonacci level from the last low to the most highest, 50 would be a good support level. Honestly, 50, that's a 38. Yeah.
I think I got it here.
There's not much volume, but I would take that as my next support level. I mean, unless we break through the 52.39.
I like it. Yep. So this is a nice setup. United Airlines. Shout out to HP out there bringing it up. So it's funny. HP was asking if it's a short or not. I don't know that I would consider it a short here. It could be given energy prices and some pressures there, but just technically looking at the chart, this looks more bullish to me than anything.
And you actually have a pretty good premium in this one. So if you are looking to open a May 31st expiration for a 51 strike price, you are getting $51.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I don't think we have too many other tickers requested. I think it is a holiday weekend here. So, 3-day, let everybody get back to it and enjoy it. But you guys, I'm looking forward to a short week of trading, honestly. I enjoy the long weeks, but the long weekend is okay by me right now. And then we get back to it. We'll have some interesting data points, PCE, like you mentioned, Kaye, and jobs numbers. And these markets are at a point where we could maybe get a pullback and allow for some adding to long positions. And that's actually what I'm hoping for. So if anybody's super bullish right now, I apologize. I'm hoping for a little bit of a pullback again, because I do think that would be the best setup for the rest of the year to continue higher. So we're already up, 9-10% on the year. Like let's get that into the teens. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to allow some profit taking first. So that's where my head's at, and we'll see what happens here. And real quick before I hand it over to you, Sean, I see that we got Dog out there asking to look at SPY. If you missed it, you guys, we did cover SPY at the top of the hour. So be sure to go check out the recordings there. And the Trading Triangle on YouTube will have everything you need there. But yeah, Sean, what are your thoughts for the week?
Yeah, for me, obviously, I completely forget that it's a holiday over there. I think we've got a bank holiday here as well, so it's a similar sort of thing. But yeah, the extra day to kind of relax, recuperate, track your trades, see where you're going wrong, see where you're going right, or obviously just take it off, relax, spend it with the family, spend it with your friends, etc. I'm guessing that second option is probably going to be most likely with traders, and I completely understand that. Obviously, trading can be a tricky game and obviously very mentally taxing, of course. So yeah, take that extra time to relax and recuperate and come back fighting on Tuesday. And I'm probably going to steal the words out of Kaye, but make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. We're going 1 year now, so yeah, to many more years.
To many more. How about you, Kaye? What you got to close us out this week?
Listen, I'm happy to take that extra day, honestly. And I wish everybody the same. Enjoy your long weekend and rest, relax, and be fresh for the short trading week next week.
Yeah, I like it, guys. Thanks again for both of your time this week and your thoughts and the charts you brought forward. We had good stuff to talk about. Appreciate everybody in the audience. Again, tons of you out there. Appreciate you subscribing to the Trading Triangle. For those of you who have, and for those of you who haven't, please do help us get the word out, because we enjoy doing this every weekend, and the more the merrier, right? So enjoy the long weekend, everybody, and the short week ahead, and we'll catch you next Sunday. Thanks again. Have a great week.
See you later.